What did the one nut say to the other nut in a game of tag? I'm a cashew. Let's go back to 757 Saturday Sports Talk, where the coach Ed Young will never catch Matt Hatfield on CoVA Sports TV.
And we have a special guest with us now. He is the Hall of Famer of the Virginia Sports Hall of Fame, recently inducted a few years back, works for the Virginia-Pilot and Daily Press. You can give him a follow on the X or the Twitter when you're not reading the newspaper in Hampton Roads with the Daily Press or Virginia-Pilot. Of course, you can find it online too at pilotonline.com, dailypress.com. Again, find him on the X or the Twitter at by David Teel. How are you, my friend? How's the summer been? It's pretty much done now, right?
Gentlemen, good morning. Coach, congratulations on your return to the sideline. Love seeing that. And happy week 0 to all who celebrate.
Hey, David, I appreciate it. Thank you. The rumor is true. I will be back on the sidelines if the good Lord lets me get to December when the games start. I'm excited about the opportunity. This past year was not good to me. I'm not coaching. I went out and saw a million games, won them all. So I figured, let me get back on the sideline and see what I learned.
Go undefeated yet again.
Well, I don't know about going undefeated, but I was last year. But
that's right.
And I can't. This will give me a chance to get back on the sideline and get away from this crazy nut right here. The Hatfield dude.
Well, I'm actually glad, David, because Ed went to more games last year. You know, also doing the OD women's basketball broadcasting and all the things I have going on in addition to covering high school sports and so forth. He went to more games than I did, and he would be hitting me up every night literally for a game. I'm like, Ed, I'm tired. I need a break. So he's just a junkie, as you know these guys are. My quick question before we dive in on the college football matters. We got a game today in Dublin. It's Iowa State and Kansas State. An ACC team, by the way, is taking on Hawaii. Yeah, that ACC team is Stanford. And, of course, we'll talk Hokies, Hoos, ODU, JMU, and Norfolk State with Michael Vick. But I teased it before break. You've covered a lot of these greats like Vick in high school. Have you ever covered a Smithfield game, number one? And number two, what is the most memorable high school game of the many you've covered and seen so many of the greats like Curry, Iverson, Vick, among others?
I don't think I've ever done a Smithfield basketball game. I moseyed out there for a football game back in the day. Couldn't tell you who it was against.
Okay.
Probably the most memorable high school game was Mike Smith and Ronald Curry against Phoebus. I couldn't peg the year where it went overtime, and instead of kicking the extra point to force a second overtime, Mike Smith said, "The heck with this, we're going for 2," and they made it. And Darling came about unhinged.
Wow. Yeah, that had to be mid-90s because there was – and I love – you probably seen it on YouTube too, which our show was streaming here on CoVA Sports TV in addition to being televised on all the different social media platforms. They have that Hampton Schools channel, that media dump they did with all these great games of the 90s. And if people haven't seen them, and it didn't live in that era like you did, documenting it and chronicling it so well, it is fun to go back and watch those games that were broadcasted on the local channel there and see some of those neat things. But now it is Michael Vick coaching at Norfolk State. It's hard to believe in many ways, David, as much as UVA and Virginia Tech and even Old Dominion and James Madison are storylines that we all follow and certainly will follow closely. It feels like Vick is going to upstage things here in the Commonwealth. You were at his press conference like we were back in December, and there's a lot of buzz, a lot of mystery. What is a fair year one for Michael Vick? And is it unfair to judge him after this first season? And I'm sure you're quite intrigued like most of us are.
Yeah, you can't. Brand new coach, brand new staff, brand new team. So how do you judge it? And that's going to be, I think it's going to be nuanced. How's the communication on the sidelines? Just the game day operation. And I'm going to be watching that as much as anything on Thursday night against Towson, because this is a group that's never done it together, and they're doing it with a bunch of young men they've never coached. And that's a difficult challenge for any staff, let alone one led by a rookie. And we were out there the other day talking to Michael, And he said he feels like he's a redshirt freshman again back at Virginia Tech getting ready for the James Madison opener. Those are the kind of nerves and butterflies that he's feeling.
David, I like how you say some things like organization, sideline chatter, play calling, as things that people are a little bit more in it, because the regular fan is going to look at the field and say, what's he doing? We just fumbled the ball, like fumbled the ball. Or if they lose 3 in a row, oh, he can't coach. We should have never had him. Okay, if this is a year, I don't necessarily think you look at record as success. It's going to be a lot of those other things. I think back on that day when he got announced, his press conference, and he had a little trepidation in his voice. Remember, he said, I was looking forward to getting coaching. I didn't know it would be this soon. And when you watch him, and Michael doesn't really bring out the cameras. He's not that type of guy, and that's okay with that. He just did his business on that field, and he did it well. And I'm wondering sometimes if that kind of, we look at it and say, well, maybe he's being forced to coach because it was an opportunity that people said, you got to take it, because he alluded about that. You came up with the best statement, I think, in the whole interview, and it was in the private interview where you said to Michael, reference to this day and age, it's about the money, NIL deals, and schools paying kids in order to get the right kid. I don't believe that kids are going to strictly go to Norfolk State because of Michael Vick. It's still a situation now where, what am I going to get? Kind of expound on that, because that was a question I said to myself when you asked it. I shook my head and said, boy, David addressed the elephant in the room. It ain't about Michael sitting up there. Norfolk State, what you going to do about money?
It's absolutely a fair question, Ed, and one that we won't know the answer to until we see the quality of the roster. And there is no transparency when it comes to what colleges are, how they're compensating these athletes. And you also have to consider the state of the program that Michael inherits. I forget what year Norfolk State elevated from Division II to what we now know as FCS. The Spartans have been to the playoffs one time, guys. Once. And it has been a long, hard slog since they have made that jump. So he takes over a program in dire need of a recharge. He has brought that from a visibility standpoint and a buzz standpoint. And now he has to produce a product. And that's what I think we're all looking forward to watching and observing and watching it evolve. And Michael has used this word, and I would encourage all Norfolk State fans to use it as well. And that's patience. It's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's certainly not. We're talking about the Virginia Sports Hall of Famer, David Teel. Follow him on the X at @ByDavidTeel and read his outstanding work in the Virginia-Pilot Daily Press. Our guest here on 757 Sports Talk as the college football season gets underway today, and then there's a full slate of action next week. And David, certainly Michael Vick, years to come, will have a better idea of what the Spartans look like. But the word pressure comes to mind, and he might be under some pressure at some point, but for a lot of our schools in the Commonwealth, you have a big matchup this year people are looking forward to. Your alma mater, JMU, taking on Liberty. We talked about that with Phil Steele recently and Paul Stone here on the show. You have Old Dominion under Ricky Ronnie, expecting to take another jump here. There's pressure there. UVA and Virginia Tech, two coaches that have not had the success yet that they aspire to get in Tony Elliott and Brent Pry. You have Hampton now with, the old nearby former conference rival trying to, make sure they get the better players in the 757 and beyond. William & Mary, Mike London, he used to coach in the ACC, and now he's trying to get the Tribe to be a playoff team at the FCS level. What's your assessment of pressure? Who's under the most? And what storyline of those kind of fascinates you the most?
I don't think there's any question that the coach under the most pressure in the Commonwealth is Brent Pry, simply because there are higher expectations at Virginia Tech than anywhere else as well there should be. It is first and foremost a football school. It's what the fan base cares about, It's just culturally built in there, part of the fabric. And Brent Pry returned an awful lot of talent last year and did not produce. And now he's flipped the roster. He has 2 new coordinators. One departure was of his choosing. He dismissed defensive coordinator Chris Marv. The other was a bit of a surprise. Offensive coordinator Tyler Bowen left for the O-line job at Ohio State. And the 2 new coordinators, Sam Cephas comes from the NFL. He's never coordinated at the FBS level. He was an FCS coordinator at Wofford. And Philip Montgomery comes in. He's been a head coach at Tulsa, was the head coach in Frank Beamer's final game, the Independence Bowl. So it will be a very pressurized season in Blacksburg, and one that starts with 2 non-conference games against SEC opponents, South Carolina against Shane Beamer, and Atlanta next Sunday, and then the following Saturday in Blacksburg against Vanderbilt and Diego Pavia, a team that beat the Hokies in last season's opener in overtime at Vanderbilt.
Ed?
David, and listen to that, I kind of agree with you too, because of expectations of Virginia Tech. And those are not 2 easy cupcakes to start off the season with, which a lot of powerhouse football teams usually do for the most part. Of course, you got Ohio State, Texas, one heck of a matchup at the beginning of, I think it's next week. UVA, I look at UVA because when you talk Virginia Tech, you almost have to say UVA somewhere in there. Tony Elliott, not quite, but he's only been there, I think, 3 years. I kind of look at the situation at UVA. I looked at their schedule. I said to myself, just picking off the top of my head, I'm thinking 6-6, little luck, 7 wins, but easily can go to 5 because there's some of those games like a Wake Forest, a Duke. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think they have Vanderbilt on their schedule too.
They do not.
Oh, they do not? Okay. There's a couple other games in there that I said it might be some of their non-con. I think they open up with Coastal Carolina, which I would think would be a win, but Coastal's not that bad at their level and not that bad of a team. I would think Tony, and I don't like about talking coaches on hot seats, being one myself. They should be fired. He's got to win X amount of games, but I'm a talking head right now. 500 at the absolute worst, which 6-6 would get him a chance for a bowl, minor as it may be. Is that kind of pressure on Tony to do that? Because it does seem nowadays the bigger schools used to be like a whole graduating series class go through about 4. We'll give you 4 years, maybe 5. Now it's like year 3 is the big year where we don't see improvement. You're lucky to get 4, and if 4 ain't winning, you'll never see 5. Your assessment on UVA.
If not now, when for Tony Elliott and UVA, Ed? You mentioned the schedule. Virginia is the only Power 5 team in the country that does not face an opponent this season that finished last year in the top 25.
Really?
Virginia is the only team in the ACC that does not play Clemson, Miami, or SMU. The schedule could not be more manageable. Moreover, Virginia invested heavily in the offseason in football, specifically with this roster. You can see it with the haul of transfers that they brought in, headlined by Chandler Morris, the quarterback from North Texas, but a slew of offensive linemen and defensive backs. When people invest, what do they expect? Dividends. And if Tony Elliott doesn't produce dividends this season, guys, I think he's in a world of trouble.
Well, this leads me to my next one, and it's similar to the Michael Vick question, David. There are some better teams on the field, obviously, in the Commonwealth than NSU, with the teams like JMU and Liberty, and we'll see what's in store for UVA and Tech in the ACC and James and Old Dominion here. But in the ACC, Clemson is the prohibited favorite by a wide margin. Made the playoff last year, eked it out against SMU, had a great season, got a nice quarterback back in the championship game of the conference. Georgia Tech's getting a lot of love as a surprise sleeper team, the Buzz team. And then you also have Louisville, who's right there. Can Florida State bounce back? But, David, the big storyline to me in the conference that overrides it all is actually at North Carolina with the guy with more Super Bowl rings than anybody else. I know you were at his press conference as well, Bill Belichick, and I'm sure Ed will love this being the longtime coach too. There's a lot of mystery with them. The whole off-season saga with the young lady that he's now, dating. Quarterback is always where things get going. And I was just told recently, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but the young man from the 757, Torrey Newkirk, who did not enroll early from Maury High School, was a late signee, is actually expected to be number 2 on the depth chart. So if number 1 goes down, he is thrust into the action potentially right away as a true freshman. What's your overview of the heels in that whole Belichick situation?
Matt, a lot of people have asked me, what do I expect from North Carolina this year? And my stock answer, and I'm sticking with it, I have no earthly idea. Guys, they have 70 new players on the roster. Not 17, 70, 70.
Yeah.
How the heck are you supposed to handicap that?
Oh.
It's impossible. Now, much like UVA, Carolina's schedule is manageable. There's a challenging opener Labor Day night at Keenan against Texas Christian. Interesting, Texas Christian just happened to be the first opponent Dion faced at Colorado. But I expect Gio Lopez, the South Alabama transfer, to be QB1. But I really don't know what to, and I don't think anybody does, what to expect from North Carolina. You would think, the transition to college aside, they should be well coached, especially on the defensive side. And that is where the Tar Heels have struggled the most of late. Witness last season when they gave up 70 to James Madison at home, a game that perhaps more than any led to Mac Brown's demise.
No question. And Ed, you're fixated on the schedules here. We'll put up North Carolina's here in a moment on the screen, but their first 4 games, and David can follow up on this with you too. TCU, Charlotte, Richmond, Central Florida. If they happen to go 4-0, Ed, they'd be hosting Clemson off the bye October the 4th. Pretty big spotlight game, huh? What do you think, Coach?
I'm like Dave. Come on. Just because Bill Belichick doesn't mean they're going to win and jump to the NFL and go to the Super Bowl. Come on now. It's college kids. When he took it, I said to Matt on the show, Dave, he could be gone before the year starts. He could jump right back. You don't know. But he did. He stayed. All that stuff with the girlfriend thing, that's personal. Let it go. I just think some old heads out there are mad. They ain't got a 24-year-old chickadee on their arm when they go out. And that's a whole nother story. But I kind of look at you as, okay, let's see. I don't think they're beating TCU the first game. Could be 1,000% wrong. But let's see. And they're definitely not beating Clemson, no matter if Brady comes back and throws for him. They stick him in and we got a new Brady Gate game or whatever the heck you want to call it. But give him a chance. 70 new players. College game is a little different. Staff. And again, and I'll say this, and I got to keep my mouth quiet. Football, maybe than any other sport, you can't just look at just the head coach. You touched on it with what Virginia did. They made some differences in personnel, coaching-wise, staff-wise. So they put some investment money-wise, whatever. A lot of that has to come through. You can't just blame it strictly on the head coach. Now, once they get going, buck stops with me. I'm the head coach. I get that. I do get that. But so many other things go on game day that head coach has to step back and delegate authority out to the people he trusts and the jobs they do, coordinators, special teams, and such. So this fixation on Belichick, he's won 8 Super Bowls, so he's going to go undefeated in college. Where are you coming from? But it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be fascinating. And that's an interesting, you mentioned staff, Ed. It's a fascinating contrast between Virginia Tech and Virginia. In his tenure at UVA, Tony Elliott has not fired a single staff member. Whereas at Virginia Tech, just this offseason, Brent Pry fired his defensive coordinator, his offensive line coach, and his strength and conditioning coach. Tony Elliott is riding with the guys who have been with him throughout his tenure in Charlottesville. Brent Pry rebooted. And we'll see which path leads to greater success.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, Dave, it's interesting. I just want to piggyback on this because the other question, I want to give you a chance to talk about your alumni place, JMU, because I know you're excited. But you just made a good point in questioning. A lot of times coaches are brought into the room after an unsuccessful season, whether it be a principal, athletic director, president, whatever, and they're going to say, what are you going to do about your staff? Which is a hint, I'm going to have to do something.
Yeah.
Because what they're saying is, if you tell us nothing, then we're going to do something about our head football coach or whatever coach. But it's a lot of times it's like, do something with your staff so we can see that you're trying to find. It's kind of like passing the blame, but you're trying to do something to fix this. Because if you just sit back and say, well, everything is good, and you've got 3 losing seasons in a row, good chance you're gone next. Their next move is they're going to get rid of you because they're giving you an opportunity to almost pass the buck. Now, some coaches would be like, maybe Tony did this. Hey, look, my guys are good, and it's not them. He might just say it's on me, which is giving them more juice to get rid of you. But sometimes you got to look around and say, okay, I've got to change this. I got to change that. I got to move this coach out here. That didn't quite go my way. That shows growth improvement. And, of course, if it don't work the next year, you already know you're gone. So you might as well do it because if it don't work, you're gone. If you don't do it, you're gone.
It's absolutely true. But with James Madison, what is so impressive is that the Duke's success over this extended period has come with multiple head coaching administrations. And Bob Chesney is the most recent, who took over for Kurt Signetti. And the Dukes are rolling. And they are prohibitive favorites to win the Sun Belt East. And schedule has been a theme of our conversation today. And JMU's is thorny indeed. In the non-conference, they have Liberty. They have Washington State. They are at Louisville on a Friday night in week 2. And they open up with a quality FCS in Weber State. And then their crossover games in the Sun Belt out of the West Division are the 2 best teams in that grouping, and that's Louisiana and Arkansas State. So if the Dukes are going to make the Sun Belt championship game and perhaps even contend for the Group of Fives college football playoff bid, they are going to earn it. But wow, they have a lot of returning production, and I think they're going to be really good. Defensively would be my question. Offensively, it would not surprise me if they average 40 points a game. They have dudes everywhere.
Well, they put up like 33 points per game or more, like 6, 7, 8 years in a row, David. So you're spot on with that. And I'll say this too, to follow that up and get you out here on my last question. We thank you so much for spending so much time with us this morning. I'm sure we'll get you back on as we get rolling here throughout the season. But on a schedule that has Louisville on it, even as much as people in the state are so fascinated by the Liberty and the ODU games, that game really just jumps out. The thing about JMU that jumps out to me is, and my dad's a 77 alum, is that I did a women's basketball game we had broadcast on a radio on New Year's Eve a few years back, and I couldn't get on the air. We had some technical issues, and the guy who was having to troubleshoot it is not the guy that usually does it, and he went above and beyond to make sure I got on the air before the game started, and we did. And I'm not saying other athletic departments don't and tech people don't at other schools, be it UVA, Tech, ODU, Norfolk State, but they do. I think their athletic administration has to, like you said, get a ton of props. When Jeff Bourne was there, certainly the people behind the scenes, because they've had all this coaching turnover from Mickey Matthews to Mike Houston, Kurt Signetti, and now Bob Chesney. It is mighty impressive. Tell the folks what they'll find in the Virginia-Pilot and Daily Press. I know last year we were all, sitting here, oh my gosh, the sports in flux, the SEC and Big Ten are taking over, but it feels like with Belichick now here and Vic now here and the teams and players we got some neat things to follow this year.
We do. I have a big story in tomorrow's paper. It'll be on A1, the front page, and it should post online later today or in the morning on Shane Beamer. Went to Columbia and spent a couple hours with him on a Monday morning, and with the Gamecocks, number 13 in the preseason polls, getting ready to play Shane's alma mater in Atlanta on Labor Day Sunday. Wanted to write about him. And then it's game week, and I'm going to be all over the place 5 games in 5 days, and people will figure it out where I'm going to be. But really looking forward. It's going to be a couple thousand miles in a rental car. Cannot wait. It's going to be awesome.
He's a traveler, man. Go get yourself a subscription to the Virginia-Pilot and Daily Press and read all the great content David and the team do over there, whether you're reading about Ed Young back on the sideline with his new suits, the top 50 football prospects that Mr. Obama's put together, or David's profile on Coach Beamer and other topics and items too. Well, always a pleasure, my friend. College football's back. We're all excited for it. Ed's a downer today with Iowa State, Kansas State, but you and I will watch, I'm sure. And I'm sure we'll be talking down the road.
Absolutely. Half hour till kickoff, guys.
Alrighty, DP.
I'm excited. I'm excited. Was it Nevada versus who is it? That's the game I can't wait. Or it's Sam Houston against Western Kentucky. That's the game I'm excited for.
There you go.
There you go. And then we got Hawaii and Stanford tonight. I'm in.
There you go.
That's my dog excited about.
Yeah, Ed's dog barking. You said Hawaii. He got going. Hey, David, always a pleasure, buddy. Be well.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, see you.
We've got more coming your way. That's the one and only David Teel.